I'm Amanda Rothschild, and this panel is Discernment and Scholarship. We had 5 panelists here today from universities across New England who were finalists for major national fellowships, and they talked about how they became interested in their major academic area of study, the intersections between their extracurricular endeavors and their academic pursuits, and a little bit about the process and experience of applying for graduate fellowships.
One of the really important things in terms of chemistry and in terms of knowing that I wanted to go to graduate school was doing research in Professor Kingsbury's lab. A lot of students start in the chemistry department second semester sophomore year. The department will actually place students in labs. So I wanted to start freshman year, so I emailed professors over Christmas break, and when I got back in January, met with some and ended up starting with Professor Kingsbury's lab in the second week of classes.
So when I came here freshman year, I had no idea what I wanted to do. I was in the honors program. I dabbled in math, classics, sociology. I had no idea what I wanted to do. And I found linguistics, which is a really small program at BC, but my advisor freshman year knew I liked language, knew I was sort of a mathematical thinker, and suggested and linguistics has really been sort of an interest of mine. I never thought it was going to become a career. And it's not necessarily, but I just loved it, and I think part of being at BC has taught me to just do what you love and do what interests you, and it'll take you somewhere, and it has.
Some of the other experiences that I've had, I mentioned volunteer work. I did a program through the Presidential Scholars Program. My freshman summer, I spent 6 weeks volunteering at a daycare center and at a school. And at the school, when the teacher that I was working for realized that I was a chemistry major, she decided that I should do experiments with the kids, which they thought meant blowing things up, but was actually not quite that exciting. But it was really cool to be able to be involved with 6th, 7th, 8th graders mostly, and showing them different ways to think about science and different experiments and teaching concepts in, a kind of tricky way. Because kids don't always realize they're learning when they're doing science experiments.
What I also discovered freshman year was that I really cared about women's issues on campus. I had never thought about feminism before I came to BC, and I realized I was a feminist in high school, looking back on some of the women's rights papers that I wrote, but never thought that students needed a voice for women's rights in a lot of different ways. So on a whim, I applied to UGBC for the Director of Women's Issues, got it. I've been doing it ever since for the past 3 years. That really started guiding me into sophomore year especially. I just started learning more about women's rights, and I think this has been mentioned before, it's that you follow your passion in whatever you do. I have no idea what I'm doing next year, but I'm really passionate about sexual and reproductive health rights, and I know that I'm going to find something to do and to really make the world a better place in what I want to do. And so I don't regret anything that I've done at BC.
You haven't found it yet, it's just maybe because you haven't found it. So if you keep looking and you try different things, which actually maybe leaving BC and throwing yourself into something completely different, this is not necessarily the place where people find what they want for sure. And I can say personally that I love chemistry, and I always knew I wanted to study chemistry because I'm very good at it, it makes sense, and I think that I can do something with it. I don't actually know what I want to do. I've had no experiences yet that have at all indicated to me what I will do with my life. 0. Except for the fact that I like chemistry. But there's a lot. There's a lot to do with that. So I'm hoping that leaving here and doing something different and trying to throw myself into some very different opportunities that I've had might be good. And I feel like for the last couple of years, we're so focused on the next step. So like in high school, it was what you need to do to get into college, and it was what I needed to do to get into grad school. And at some point, I'm going to have to stop doing that. But, just trying to, at some point, figure out what I need to do, figure out what it is I want to do.